fiasco at Union Square Park, Thursday, 6 May 2021. We're a backdrop is this monument, which is the sesquicentenary monument 150 years ago in honor of the Declaration of Independence. So it's a wonderful day out. We might have some slight interruptions. I don't mean the birds tweeting, but we'll probably have just maybe a few interruptions as we're doing this outdoors. And I'm here with the wonderful Cherokee Black, who's an artist, a stylist. She's had some small, she wants me to mention entrepreneur and much else. You're writing a book and soon to be a podcaster and much else, and she'll tell us about it. So we want to start with the chronology. Cherokee, I know you, and you've been just this fabulous person, and you have a big following on the internet, particularly around young millennial women who like the way you look. you have to talk a little louder so we can all hear.
Okay, I'm not sure it's my looks that they're following.
Okay, they think you're fabulous. So you're a New Yorker.
I am definitely.
Yeah, one of the real native New Yorkers.
Yes.
Aside from being an indigenous person.
I go back to the 1850s.
Yeah.
So my great grandmother.
And they had a place inside Central Park. There was a whole Indian settlement.
She actually lived on 75th Street before Columbus Avenue was called Columbus Avenue.
Right.
Her house was between Columbus and Austin.
Right.
In the 1850s.
And there was a settlement there inside the park.
Seneca Village.
Seneca Village, inside the park.
Yes.
Yes.
And that started like maybe in the 70s, and it went to like 80 on the west side of the park.
But you actually grew up on the Upper West Side.
I grew up in Morningside Heights, Harlem, and Flushing, Queens.
And Flushing, Queens.
And then I moved back to the Upper West Side.
Because I know you're one of those hardcore Manhattanites.
I am definitely.
Like myself. For better or for worse.
Right.
So you lived in Queens for...
I'm from age 7 to about 19, 20. So
I didn't know you were in Queens that long. Did I just... Yeah.
My grandmother got a house there. She thought it would be a better environment for us.
Definitely.
Because we couldn't play in the city by
You have
ourselves.
a house in Queens,
We had a yard, all the kids, we had the biggest yard on the block, so all the kids came to us.
What neighborhood in Queens was that?
I lived on 75th Avenue and between 164th and
What is the neighborhood called?
I don't know, we call it the Ville.
Yeah, okay, all right.
We call it the Ville.
Right. So
it was culturally mixed. My friends were Italian and Jewish.
Right.
So it's nice.
And you yourself, you're African American.
I identify as African American, but when I go on auditions, I'm Native American, which is ironic.
It's so funny. The casting directors actually.
They see me a whole different.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I am.
So that's wonderful. So you could do any number
of different things. Yeah.
You can fit any number of several categories.
Right now, I'm looking for an agent and a manager, but when
talk into the camera. Right now, you're looking for.
I'm looking for an agent or manager. Anyway.
Well, I understand.
When I worked in 2019, all the parts that I had, I was a featured Native American.
Right. So let's start with the chronology. So you went to grammar school, middle school here.
I went to elementary school for 2 years in Manhattan, PS 165 on 109th between Broadway and Amsterdam.
Right near Columbia.
And then we moved to, we actually moved from our apartment on 115th Street between Broadway and Riverside to the Hotel Empire, where we stayed in Ethel Warner's suite for about a year. Right. And so I took the bus to school because I was kidnapped. And when the police returned me, my grandmother decided to leave the apartment. So
you were kidnapped by a relative?
I was kidnapped by my father.
By your father?
Yes.
Wow, that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story. It's in the book.
And for your podcast?
Yeah.
Yes. Whoa, how long did that?
I don't know how long it was with me. But when the police returned me, I was hysterical and I couldn't explain to my grandmother where I was and what happened to me.
Right.
And that was my first last meeting.
you were
She died in my
you've been
arms.
so great, kind to share those pictures with me. They're just absolutely beautiful pictures of your family and your recently deceased sister. So there's two of you from the same mother and father.
I have
right?
no other brother. My
Yeah,
brother.
that's right.
My brother was. My mother died in June '81. My brother was murdered in October '81. So he
So the
died a few
same
months
year.
the same year I lost both of them.
And then
And then my sister was.
she transitioned last year.
Right, but
just
she,
before the pandemic.
right after my mother and brother died, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then in '83, my father died. I don't need to say that, 'cause
No, it's as one jazz writer would say, it's a blues laugh. It's a blues laugh. It's a dark.
I have to remember
It's a
that.
dark laugh. It's kind of a blues laugh, as it were. So high school, and then you came back to Manhattan.
I had a son and I came back to Manhattan, but I also did some modeling. I was flying back and forth between here and Europe, Italy, France, Switzerland, doing some modeling.
That is so amazing.
And I always came back. I actually would have stayed home, but I had a son, so I came back. In between jobs, I came home.
You had a son at about 19.
I had him around school.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people may not realize it. People who had children.
Oh, my
that
mother
were
had me
married
when she was 19.
My mother had her first child at 18.
Yeah.
There were, in the 50s, people were considered, before they were called teenagers, 1954, 55, they were young adults.
Right. Right. My
And there were
mother had me
a lot of
right
them were married at 18.
She went to
19.
Jamaica High School also. She had me right out of high school.
Right. And I've seen a picture of you and your son, and he's a little baby, and you all look so extraordinarily beautiful. I mean, just like a mother and her child. Yeah. And that was your only child.
I only had one son,
Yeah.
Bizarre Royale.
Right. And he's a
He's a
bit of a
singer.
rock star. He's a rock star.
Well, yeah, he does.
He sings rock.
Yeah.
And he's
well,
known.
He's sort of a genre called ghetto metal.
Ghetto metal. Is that
It's a combination of hip hop, spoken word, and rock, hard rock. And
Yeah, just say it a little louder. We want you to
I
project
can't-
because we have with your beautiful voice. We want you just to project a little so we can get everything that you're saying. Well, I won't quote the line from Gatsby about his love interest and she opened her mouth. Forget it. But anyway, so so you have a son, Royale.
Bizarre Royale.
Bizarre Royale, who's actually known. He's known in music circles.
Yes.
And he fronts his own band.
He's not musically. I don't think he's doing. Well, he's writing now
Right.
and working on projects.
And he's part of a musical genre that you said called ghetto
he's on a
metal.
lot of ghetto metal.
Ghetto
was
metal, like
a
metal.
genre that he started himself. Different musicians have come and supported him. There's an interview with him and Ice-T and Phil Collins from Def Leppard, and he did a lot of work with DMX. He's on the credits of the movie soundtrack. And he's on a lot of DMX's music.
Yeah, he's sort of in a celebrity marriage, right? His wife is well known too, definitely,
Yes, Beverly Bond.
from Black Girls Rock. Right. So we got that part. So he's kind of jumping around.
Around.
Yes. So after high school, you got into
I modeled.
you modeled.
I started modeling. My mother and my mother's assistants.
And did you also dance? Because it's a picture with you and Van Peebles' son, the great black director's son, and both of you all were modeling at the same time.
I actually
Mario
at that
Van
time
Peebles.
I was still modeling, but I was a magazine editor, and he was there for a photo shoot at the magazine to do yoga exercises for the magazine to show people how to do yoga.
Because he also modeled, and then he later directed a couple films.
He followed his father.
Yeah, and I think his father's production is going to be on Broadway this year or next year.
Oh, good.
Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death, which I think was on Broadway 51 years ago.
It was.
50 or 51 years ago. And by the way, as you know, you probably heard a lot is opening up. Broadway's opening up on
September.
14th September 2021.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, lots of people are. I walked through Times Square earlier today, and it was you can see
The energy
plays.
coming back.
Yeah, with the marquees, plays. Marquees already have
Oh, good.
plays in the marquee. The titles of the plays that will be staged at those theaters. So, how many years were you?
I was a
modeling?
trained dancer. I trained with Ailey when Ailey had his school in an elementary school on 59th Street in Detroit. And then I trained model, and then I studied jazz with Frank Hatchett.
I mean, I've been telling you for years, your story is just, it intersects with so many events, individuals, artists.
Like my mother's godmother was at the war.
I know, you just mentioned that just
Yeah.
passingly. I mean,
Yeah.
so she was sort of a godmother kind of
She
figure
was her
to
god.
you.
She was my she was my mother's godmother, but and she was my grandmother's best friend. So whenever she was in New York, she
That's
was
the great
around us.
Ethel Ward is, for those who don't know, great artist, singer, dancer, great African American artist who was active from the 30s right through
Through the 1960s,
the
late
60s. Yeah.
Cabin in the Sky,
Yes, with
Member of the Wedding, a lot of
just extraordinary, great singer.
She originated
Dancer.
the Stormy Weather in 1933. She was the first person to record it on RCA in 1930.
So you were around Miss Waters. You were
Her piano was in our house. Yeah, when I was little. Her piano was in our house, and I have a lot of her stuff.
You have her stuff.
I have a lot of pictures.
Cherokee, so you were telling us.
Oh wait.
Oh, pardon.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Okay, we're on the air. You were speaking about your time modeling. How many years was the period that you were modeling, and you were also in Europe? So it was primarily the time you were in Europe.
I did that off and on between the mid 1970s and the late 1980s.
In 1970s and
To the
1980s.
mid 1980s, and then I actually had a contract with State Models, which was a model service agency, a 3-year contract, like 3 years ago. So I still do it sometimes.
How many countries were you doing work in Europe?
I did Italy, I did Switzerland, I did Paris. I even modeled in West Africa,
What countries?
Senegal and Ghana.
Did you go to South America or the Caribbean?
No.
Uh-huh.
I went to the Caribbean on my own.
Right. So you went to the Caribbean on your own. Yes. It just the cameraman is just giving you a signal just to
Yeah, I went
project.
to the Caribbean on my own.
You went to the Caribbean on
But
your own.
modeling, the main.
Right.
I had a great time in Switzerland because it was during the time that Tina Turner was polishing up her act to go on the road and reintroduce herself to Europe.
Right.
And I was hanging out with they see American women in the lobby of the hotel. They're like, "You're from America? Oh my God, thank God!" And then so we were hanging out with them, and I got to meet Tina and hang out with them. And that was
And of
fun.
course,
in Zurich,
you must have needed, I won't say the word, you must have needed a lot of spray to keep the admirers, the people who were sweating you away.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So,
That's your guest. Oh, we still
we're
on the
talking,
thing.
we're
I
here.
know, but you know me. Very, very low
yeah.
key.
Yes. So you did the work in Europe and Africa, modeling, and then the dancing part is interesting because you
The
just
dancing, I never danced. I never danced
But you studied-
professionally, but I studied for a long time.
when
And
Ailey
a lot of
himself
the
was
things-
helming
Yes,
the company.
yes, and I studied with Miss D, Miss Jefferson, when I was studying modern dance when she was really young, actually, because I was young. I was in my 20s.
So how long was your were you studying with Ailey, with Alvin Ailey?
Off and on for many years.
For many years.
Every now and then I go back and take a class now, but
So talk to us also about some of the film work. You've had some small subsidiary roles in some films.
I always, the funny thing about that is I always get cut out, so it really doesn't matter.
So it ends up on the floor.
Yeah, I end up
Cutting
on the editing floor, but I actually met what's the director's name that did American Gangster? I got into the
Oh, the
script.
Frank Lucas story with Denzel Washington.
Right, I got into the unit because of him. He loved me and put me in a scene with Ruby D, and then it was a beautiful wedding, and the wedding didn't make
What's interesting, that was actually such a good scene too. Ruby was nominated. I mean,
she was.
small part too. Yeah. So you were in that
She
scene.
was the matriarch.
Yeah.
So that's not really a small matriarch. I'm a matriarch.
Well,
That's
now
a big role. What are you talking about?
You're a matriarch. People find that hard to believe, but you are in fact a matriarch, right?
Yes.
So, did you enjoy the film work?
I enjoy working on set. That's why I'm trying to get a manager. I love working on set. I walked away from my career to take care of my sister. And I walked away.
I know the story, but it's just the pollen.
I walked
Blame it
away
on the
from
pollen.
my career because my sister had a massive stroke when she was 27, and I was the only one to take care of her and raise her son.
That's right. Yes, we're going to go back to your modeling days and working in Europe, which is what we're talking about. So that continued from the mid '70s to the mid '80s. Right.
You know, to backtrack a little bit, I went on an audition for Pantene in the late 70s.
Pantene is the
Pantene
cosmetic.
shampoo, and
Yeah.
everybody knows Pantene.
Yeah.
And I met Ann Charles. Ann Charles was looking for someone for an ad, and I ended up, that was the first time I went to Europe actually. She ended up becoming my mentor, and when she left that and went into publishing, I actually became the editor of her magazines that were at Harris Publications.
Right.
She had 12 hair magazines, Hair, Doing Beauty, in those magazines. And I was the editor of Black Hair Care and Black Dress for many years, and I did some freelance writing for Essence.
What is very interesting and actually intriguing is that in your life you managed to still do all this stuff while being the principal caretaker of your sister for about 39 years. Is that correct?
33 years.
33 years.
Yeah, she died in 2020.
Yeah, and she'd been ill for so long.
33 years.
And was in a coma for.
She was in a coma for like 6 months. This is the irony and why I believe in a higher power. My sister had a massive stroke, and the doctors kept telling me she was brain dead. And every time the doctors or anyone said that, she kicked her leg. And I felt that she was trying to signal to me that she was still present. 6 months later, when she came out of the coma, it took a week. And then finally, she looked at me like to come closer, and I did. And she asked me what the F I was crying for. So that she was not brain dead, obviously. I told the doctor that she was not. She's a Leo. She did not. They don't die easily.
And
she lived 33 years. So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So very, very strong. Even though her body didn't work and everything, we went to Broadway. I took her to the movies. She had a quality of life. You know.
But she was in a nursing home.
She was in a nursing home, but I took her out all the time. And I cooked her food because she would need.
I know the work that you did with your sister. I mean, it was one of sisterly love and affection that was really deep. I mean, you were there at that nursing home
every day,
daily, for many years.
And I promised her that I would be with her until her final breath, and I was.
Right, which came just before the pandemic.
I told her.
Right.
I told her a joke, and that was when she took her last breath. She left.
What a way to go!
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I said to her, I have to say this because it was funny. I was telling her, you know, you have to go to the light because I can hear the ancestors talking to you. So it's time to go. And I give you permission. I know you don't want to leave me, but it's really time for you to go. I have good friends. They'll take care of me. They love me. So go. And then I said, but wait a minute. Don't come back and turn around looking for me because if you end up at the bottom of my bed in the middle of the night, I'm going to hurt you. And she laughed and transitioned.
Wow.
And then I'm standing there going, holy crap, you left? You really left me? And the nurse says, you told me to go. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And then I calmed down.
Amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even cry because we had been together so long.
Yeah, I remember when she passed on. It was February, end of February.
It was, actually, the funeral was February 1st. She transitioned on
2020.
January 17th.
Right, and she passed on just before the
we
just
were
before
shut
the
down
pandemic.
in March,
March, yeah.
right.
March 14th, everything was
right, and that was very sad because my friend Jan Forney, who was she sang "Wind Beneath My Wings" at my sister's funeral. I had Native American drummers and singers and everything. She sang, and the first week of the pandemic, she transitioned from COVID. The person who sang, so that was traumatic.
And I know. I know for you it was just devastating.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And also in another sense, because of your spirituality, you see it as a kind of rebirth.
Oh no,
for
yeah,
yourself.
definitely. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
no telling where she is now. I believe that the spirit transcends. I was going to say, I actually was privileged to go to the last vaudeville show at the Apollo when I was 10 years old, and I got to meet Butterbean and Susie. Like, I got to meet all the old school
I know the
entertainers.
intersections. The life.
Mom's Mabley was my father's godmother. I didn't even know that.
The people
till
don't
later.
even know who Mom. Mom
Yeah.
is amazing.
She's
She's an amazing comedian.
Yeah, they're going to make a movie about her.
Well,
too.
they already made a.
Yeah.
Wasn't Whoopi Goldberg portrayed her in something?
Did she?
Yeah, I think she portrayed her in.
I don't think.
Yeah, it was on cable.
Oh.
It came out within the last 8 to 9 years. But something, there needs to be
I'll
more
have to Google
documentaries
that.
on Mom's Mabley.
Yeah.
Which she was an extraordinary comedian.
She was very funny and she was very attractive. Like,
Yeah.
she worked without her teeth and all that stuff, but she was really pretty.
I mean, she dressed up as sort of like a rag doll.
Yeah.
And that was part of her act. And just a wonderful. So, name some of the people that your life intersected with. The great Ethel Waters, who was a great
Charles Honeycomb.
Well, let's start with Ethel first.
Okay.
Ethel's this extraordinary figure.
Well, she was my mother's godmother.
Yeah. Ethel had this great line about Lena Horne. Lena Horne was this gorgeous.
They had a feud because during the filming of Cabin in the Sky, Vincent Minnelli, the director, took on Ethel's song. That was her signature song. She was the first one to record it on RCA in 1933, and gave it to Lena, and Lena claimed it as her signature song.
That's
And,
amazing.
and they had a light skin, dark skin thing going anyway.
Yeah, right. I mean, Lena was sort of had this Anglo look, which was at that point quite marketable. And
their feud lasted until on Ethel's died.
it was actually about Josephine Baker that she got off the line. She said, we were talking to her about how Josephine Baker's so successful in Paris. And she said, yeah, but she went there and used all my stuff. She took all my, all the songs and used her. Because I mean, Ethel was this extraordinary and also very beautiful. She was beautiful.
Right. They called her Sweet Mama Stringy. Was her name when she was young. She started out as a chorus girl.
Very interesting life. She wound up though, interesting enough, with the Billy Graham crusade.
Yeah.
And
she
but-
was
and
singing
being
His
hostile.
Eye is on the Sparrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was oddly enough hostile to the civil rights movement.
That's not true.
That's her being.
That's not true, because she was actually very close to Paul Robeson, and he had changed her views about that a lot, about the whole civil rights movement. So there's another story
Okay.
that
all right.
we don't have time to talk about.
I love Ethel Waters.
Yeah.
So she's the grande dame of
She
as
was
far as I'm
married.
concerned.
She was married to a band leader named Eddie Malin. I have pictures of him too.
Did she have any children?
She did not.
She did not.
Crystal Waters is a distant niece of hers. She was saying that she was her granddaughter.
Right.
Because she
So
didn't have children.
name some of the people that your path crossed,
Well,
and people that you.
Honey Cole's
The great-
famous tap dancer.
The great tap dancer.
Cole's an actor. His daughter is kind of my sister and my best friend since
Right.
I'm age 14. So I was in their household a lot.
And then just reel off some of the names so that people.
He was the first. Him and Charlie Atkins were the first blacks on Broadway in a white production in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which
Right.
is a big.
Okay.
Isabel's mother was a part of the strike at the Apollo with the Shipman brothers.
Right. So you were going to reel off some names.
Okay. You want to know names of people that I know in show business?
Well, the people that you came across. There's so many people that you worked with, and growing up, when you were growing up as a young child, there were these greats. You mentioned Ethel Waters, Honey Coles.
Ethel Waters, Honey Coles, Uta Hagen, Herbert Burkhoff. My grandmother was friends with Uta when she was married to Jose Ferrer.
Uta was German or Dutch?
She's German.
Woman.
She's German.
Wonderful.
She was friends with my grandmother. My grandmother actually worked for her when she was with Jose Ferrer, and they became friends. So, and I also studied with Uta and Herbert also at HB Studio. I met Anthony Quinn. I hung out with Anthony Quinn for a while. I actually crashed one of his cocktail parties and ended up at Le Cirque for his birthday.
At the legendary restaurant.
Right,
Yes, sir.
and we ended up in the National Enquirer, where
my
it said he was dating Rita Storm. That was fun. My mother loved that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So your mother was probably very proud of you. You were the oldest of the three children,
Well,
right?
I had a different energy from her. Like when I met Muhammad Ali, I was Lieutenant Uhura at Toy Fair. This is funny. And it was Wonder Woman.
So you were working the toy fair.
Right. And when they introduced his doll, my mother called me and said, Muhammad Ali's going to be on your job. And I said, Mom, I'm not going to see him. And the next thing you know, I'm at the Russian tea room with Muhammad
I saw the
Ali.
pictures.
And I'm like, Mom.
those.
And she says, did you see Muhammad Ali? And I said, hold on, and put her on the phone. He was on the phone for 45 minutes because he was talking to all the girls in our office.
But he lingered around you and took pictures with you.
Yeah, but it was funny.
I've seen the
no,
pictures.
he took me to the Russian tea room.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, we left the toy fair.
Did you finish your
We
shift?
left. He said when he was supposed to be introducing himself to the girls, and he looked at me and said, "Are you ready for lunch?" And I said, "I'm not going to lunch. I'm raising a kid. This is my job. What are you talking about?" And he said, "Oh no." And Marty said, "You can go."
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, the president of the company said you can go.
If Muhammad Ali asked the president of the company, can you let the lady off a lunch break?
Yeah, that was
Take
fun.
her to lunch.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Did you stay in touch with them?
I did for a while.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure he stayed in touch.
New York, yeah.
I'm sure
Whenever he was in New York, I had lunch with him.
I'm sure he appreciated your company and he stayed in touch with
Well,
you.
he liked me.
He liked you.
Yeah.
So who are some of the other people? You mentioned these greats from Broadway in the 30s and the film world from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and the 50s. And you were, of course, a child. You're not of their generation.
Oh no.
But you were around.
No, but it was kind of, well, it was really funny because I was the type of kid that I liked them and I knew who everybody was. Like my brother, it didn't faze my brother or sister at all. But it was exciting for me, and I think that knowing Aunt Ethel is why I wanted to be an actress.
The Ali story is such a hoot. That's hilarious. We're going to get to what you're doing going forward, the podcast, the book, and much else. But I want for you to talk about after you were dancing. You never danced professionally.
No.
Right.
No, I would have if I wasn't taken out of Jesus Christ. My father would let me go.
That must have been a big downer for you.
I was crying.
And he just did that.
My girlfriend, I have a girlfriend, God bless her, Linda Farrell. She did the Broadway. She was in the chorus. She went to Broadway. She went to South Africa with him. She went on the road.
Wow, so
she had her whole career was predicated on that.
On being a Jesus Christ superstar.
Yep.
Right. So you were just extremely estranged from your father, to put it mildly.
Well, I didn't. He wasn't.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, I was, all my friends had mothers and fathers. I never missed not having a father. I had 3 godmothers, and I had a very strong grandmother. I didn't miss that. All my friends had, he was, when I was younger and my mother introduced me to him, I took my brother and hid. I thought he was a devil. There was an energy about him that was not.
You're speaking of your father.
Yes.
And
we hid in a closet.
Right. When did your relations with them end?
I didn't have relations with him other than bad relations, and he died alone because I didn't let my brother or sister die.
And your brother died early.
He was murdered.
Who was he?
He was 25. That was a strange thing.
Was it an unsolved case?
It's in the book. I recently spoke to the assistant DA, and they were going to make it a cold case, but something happened, and Brown, before he retired, DA Brown in Queens, right before he retired, shut it down again and resealed the case. So I have some hints of what happened, and my father was involved.
Your father was involved in the murder of your brother, you're saying?
Yeah. He didn't,
start.
it turns out my brother wasn't his own kid. He didn't think he was.
arc of your life has been a very good one and an intriguing one. I mean, if you take your trips to Europe and then you were in Africa, you were in about 3 or 4 countries, 5 countries there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And your stay there, was it long or was it short?
I would go for a couple of weeks at a time, basically, because I had to get home with my son. Motherhood was important to me. So, I would go to the assignments and come home.
Did you do, I know you've been around, like me, so much
Egypt,
around cabaret and jazz. Did you do any, were you a vocalist or?
I sang, but I actually had Teddy Van in the Brill Building was my producer actually, and I did sing, but I'm asthmatic, and I've been intubated a few times, and that effectuated the vocal cords, so I don't sing. I sing and I love singing. That's why my son sings.
Well, yeah. So that Bizarre Royale must have certainly
got my voice,
He's a rock star.
He got
so
my
he got your voice and also that sort of affability as well, right? Yeah. So tell us some of the things that you're working on now.
I have a lifestyle blog called Face Bling by Cherokee. I have a YouTube channel called Face Bling by Cherokee. I'm actually in the process of relaunching them because I've been away for a couple of years dealing
You have
with
the
my
book
sister.
that's forthcoming.
And I'm writing a memoir, yes.
Yeah.
I have a book coming.
And then you also have a.
And I'm going back to my acting career. So I'm looking for a manager.
Right, so this is a completely second chapter,
Yes.
which is very.
I'm reinventing myself,
Yeah.
basically, right now.
Very interesting. Well, it's a reinvention, but based on, you have
It's
solid
easier
footing in a
because-
lot of things
Right.
that you've done. Yeah.
It's easier because
So
I've
it's
been
not-
there already.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The industry
So you
has
will-
changed a little bit, but it's okay.
It must have changed started.
And a lot, because everything's on computer now. Like you used to be able to knock on people's doors and say, "Hi, I'm here."
Now they want you to send an audition video.
Yeah, an audition video, or email them their pictures, take
Right.
selfies.
Well, what you will probably need is an agent for commercials as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were commercial agents.
Yeah.
Agents for commercials.
And people have been telling me I should do voiceovers.
So yeah, the voiceover is big. Are you a member of the union?
I'm a Screen Actors Guild since 1986, and I'm AFTRA since
You're
1986.
AFTRA, SAG,
For over
and Equity.
36 years. Equity, I'm not, because I didn't do the show. I would have been.
Or if you
had
did,
I done
yeah,
the show.
right. If had you done Jesus Christ Superstar,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Is that a big regret for you that?
Yes. I've had quite a bit of disappointment because of that relationship that my mother had.
That your mother had with your father? A lot of disappointment
Yeah, I could have.
resulted from it.
He was a chapter that we could have just missed. Totally.
A book
You don't
could
even
have just
know.
missed. A book that you could have just missed. Yes. Yeah. So now tell us about the podcast. What will the podcast deal with? I know that's really important to you.
I want to talk to women, and I want to be brutally honest, and I want women to talk back about relationships, trauma, and things like that. There's the sexual harassment thing. All these things have been going on for centuries, and now we can talk about them. And everybody has a story. I want to hear them. I want to share with them. I think it'll be a way for women to heal, because they'll know that they're not.
So it will be a women-centered.
There'll be men have been sexually harassed too.
Just talk a little louder so we can hear. We have music on the other side of the park.
I said
drowning out.
men can participate too, because there is sexual harassment and abuse with men. Look at the priest and the boys, and then there's Hollywood, and then there's Hollywood.
There's Hollywood land, there's theater world,
Yes.
theater land,
Yes.
television land, and then all the other industries as well, right? I mean, it's been a watershed the last few years, right? With all these
Because people are-
revelations.
Yes, because it's so much. They're secrets that people hold for their whole lives, and it's not I've always been letting it go, so I've always been talking about it. So I'm glad that I'm
So we know some of the names. We're not going to mention it on camera, but some of the names that were outed in sort of the sexual scandals in recent years, particularly in entertainment. You knew
well,
a number
Harvey
of them.
Weinstein, I grew up. Harvey Weinstein lived in the
Miramax
development.
Pictures, yeah.
Yeah, he lived in Elecchester, which is where all the electricians lived.
Queens.
In Queens, in Flushing. So him and his brother, we knew them.
Harvey Weinstein and his brother, yeah. And then we don't have to mention the names, but your paths crossed a lot of.
Yes. Cosby. I know Cosby. But see, I don't know him that well. I don't know him. And, Matt Robinson used to do a lot of writing for him. That's Holly Robinson's father. I knew him.
Did any of these crazy scandals surprise you? Kevin Spacey, the others?
Because men are arrogant and they do what they do, and they know that they're not going to be held accountable because they're in a power position. It's a man's world. Things are changing. Women aren't having it.
Changing, yeah.
Right. Women aren't having it.
I mean, when you look at
So,
the progress of women, they dominate now all the major graduate schools, medical school, law school. They're getting
Television
closer
now.
in the engineering schools. So it's going to be
There's
it's a
a
different
reckoning.
world.
It's
Yeah,
a reckoning.
exactly.
It's a
There's
reckoning.
quite an interesting reckoning that's going on across the board, and it's a long time coming.
Yes, and I'm happy that it's happening during my lifetime.
So you have a front row seat,
Yes.
and you're.
And I'm an active participant.
So tell us some of the activism that you've been involved in. I know you've been involved in a number of campaigns.
Well, I would have been a Black Panther, but my mother wouldn't let me.
So you would have been a Black Panther player.
Yeah. Well, the difference between that and the guys who stormed the White House, is a colored thing, because if Black people had done that, there would have been blood in the
Yes,
streets.
insane.
That's
insane. What you
insane.
did
So,
on
things have to
January
change.
6th, yeah.
Marches on Washington, like
Were you
mothers,
there?
mothers against guns.
Did you-
Not the original.
Not the original one. In
But I
63.
went to the anniversaries of them, and Mothers Against Guns. I'm very anti-gun,
Right.
because kids get them too easily.
A lot of us in the north up here, despise
I don't understand that.
the fact that we have proliferated, the various communities that already put up on those communities already have progress. So how have you, growing up in New York and watching the landscape change and what the developers have done
As far as
for artists,
gentrification,
gentrification, Upper West Side and the village of Harlem, what would you say? I mean, it's almost unrecognizable.
the problem I have with gentrification is if you're coming to a community, yes, you're bringing money and it's helpful, but you can't kill the culture, because that's what attracted you, like jazz. Like there are no good jazz clubs anymore. Not like they used to.
There are a handful of places just
There are
where
a
jazz
handful,
is played.
but it's not
the jazz clubs.
Yeah, it's not. I don't even know those jazz people. I'm like talking about real jazz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, real jazz.
Yeah.
At least St. Nicholas Pub, like they would come after their gigs and they would jam.
Right.
It was real.
We had
jazz.
Vincent. We interviewed Vincent. It was a
interesting.
good interview on Monday, and it went pretty quickly.
Oh.
Yours?
Making a pun.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. It was just, but St. Nicholas Pub,
Yeah.
and then you had Small's Paradise,
Right.
and then
Paris
you had
Blues.
Paris Blues, and then you had so many other.
Back in the day, like Club Barrel.
And those are some of the. St. Nicholas Pub. It's just amazing. I mean, Vincent, none of your artists' friends live in Manhattan, probably, right, anymore. I mean, Manhattan has become so unaffordable.
No, a lot of my artist friends are still here. Some of them have moved to Brooklyn.
Well, I guess I meant a lot of the younger ones. It's become confiscatory.
Yeah.
It's so costly.
Unless they all live together and share the rent or something.
5, 6 people. Not that 5 or 6 or 8 people weren't sharing rooms. Apartments before. I mean, stewardesses were, and other artists sometimes.
But it was a totally different thing. I mean, two bedrooms like $4,500
Yeah.
in my building. That's insane.
And you've been in the building that you're in now for what?
28 years.
And before that, where were you?
I was on 76th Street between Columbus and Amsterdam with Brownstone, across the street from where the flea market is.
So you have some time that you've been in that vicinity of the Upper West Side.
Oh, yeah, I love the West Side. I wouldn't even go maybe Harlem, but you know, I like the Upper West Side.
Well, the village of Harlem is it's
It's
really
not Harlem anymore.
Yeah,
those
it's
tall buildings are killing the whole vibration.
it's posher now. But it was the old Harlem was very
Those buildings, it was a village. Those buildings
Yeah.
are ugly. They just take away from the
Well, you're
whole-
talking about some of the luxury high-rise
Yeah, yeah.
apartment buildings in
Yeah,
Harlem.
but they're sprouting up all over.
So, what are some of the productions that you're looking forward to being involved with as we go forward? Now that appear to be coming out of this pandemic.
Productions.
You and I have been fully jabbed and fully vaccinated. We say fully jabbed in the UK. And you haven't, right? You haven't done it. Yeah, but your doctor, a doctor's orders, not you're not an
I
anti-vaxxer.
wouldn't if the doctor told me I could.
I'm fully vaccinated. But now that we're coming out of this, or seeming coming out of it, what are some of the productions that you are looking
I don't know.
forward
I'm looking to. I actually in February, if things open up, God willing, I'm going to LA for pilot
next year?
season. Yeah, I'm going to pilot
2022?
season. Yeah,
You're
I'm
gonna go
going
for
to
pilot
check
season
out
in
pilot
LA.
season and see what's going on.
television?
Yeah, because I'm like a newbie now
Right.
because I've been away so long. It's like starting all over. So I need to go out there and meet everybody.
Is it going to be more fun this chapter of your life than?
If I don't completely fall apart, you know, everything is breaking. You know, you get older, things. I'm having my shoulder done, my knees done. You know, I have my knees done. You know, it's ridiculous. You know,
Reminds me of
I'll keep going as long as you know.
it reminds me
Choo
of
choo Charlie.
President Charles de Gaulle of France said, "Old age is a shipwreck."
Yeah.
But you're far from that.
Oh, thank you.
You're far from
Thank you. I was wondering where you were going.
that. I mean, you're far from that. So you're going to be working in going forward. I mean, you should be doing
Yeah,
more
I wanna-
television work, some
yeah,
film
more
work.
not theater as much, but yes, I want to work in TV, commercials, film.
Well, you've already been in
Episodic
commercials.
television.
And you didn't even mention that you're
Manifest, you know, shows like that. You know.
and you get a lot of work as a stylist. You're a stylist. We need to talk about that.
Oh yeah, I'm a makeup artist. I do makeup. I do. I freelance at CBS for years.
And you've worked in a number of shows and
celebrities. Yeah, some. Yeah.
you have people, certain people call you.
If they call me, I'll do it. I don't do it.
So you have it like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just working on other things. I'm redirecting my energy to really what I want to do.
Are you excited about this new beginning? Because that's what it is.
It's a different thing for me because this is the very first time in my entire life that I've not had to take care of somebody, to love and nurture somebody, and I can actually take that energy and give it to my son. And it's the first time in my entire life since I was 16. That's a
So
long
your time is yours.
So it's now my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cat.
It's your time. Oh, yeah,
have
your
a
cat.
cat.
You and your cat. Right. So you're looking forward to
It
work.
took a while to get used to being by myself and not having to go to my sister, see to it that she was okay. You know, all the other people I was with, you know, it takes a while to get used to just being within yourself, you know, self-care. It's hard to do.
What are you going to be working just in LA or
No, I'm going to be bi-coastal. New York.
You'll be bi-coastal.
You know, New York is my place. If I get a job,
I know, but
if I get a job in LA, yes, I'll be there, but I'll be flying down.
But you also like the time that you spent in Europe. And
I love
you,
Europe.
you,
Yeah, I want to spend some time back there too. But you know, on vacations, it's too late. That's something.
And in LA, do you have an agent that will
I'm working on getting an agent that does both New York and LA. I work both ways.
Right. Okay, so I I know you have a big following out there. So what do you have to say to some of the millennials?
To the millennials.
Yes.
I have old
And the
people
generation.
too. I have baby boomers too.
Oh, you have baby. You have baby boomers too.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you have to say to some of the Generation Z and the millennials who are sort of making? Yeah.
Oh boy. I would just say to be positive and make sure that you're empathetic, caring and loving, because people are so on devices now that they don't have to have company or people around them. They're losing their compassion, and I really don't want to see that.
What I know you've been guided by indigenous spirituality, so-called American Indian, but indigenous people. How has that impacted you and guided you in your life? It's been a rock for you, I'm sure.
It's a different thing because I'm naturally that way since I'm young. Like I talked to my ancestors, and I did it before I knew that it was a thing. So it's just a very natural way that I move. And my grandmother used to say, always go with your gut or everything will get messed up. Of course, I didn't listen to her, but the gut is the spirit. And now that I'm doing that, everything is flowing very smoothly. So, you have to follow because we're human, but it's just a shell, we're a spirit. And people are losing their spirituality. People don't even go to church anymore.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, just to...
Not that religion is spirituality. It's not. It's religion.
Well, religion
It's
can be
organized
spirituality
religion.
and organized. It can be both.
Don't
But
get me started on the people who came with the Bibles and turned the Africans into like Christians, because that's how we got here. Let's not go there. Okay.
Is that it? Will that be a? Will you go on a daily rant? Because I won't. I've heard.
I won't. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yes. So Cherokee Black. Just before we're bringing this to a close, time has evaporated, and the audience will know, but we took more breaks than you can imagine, and it's been all wonderful. But so tell us the provenance or the derivation of the name. Where did the name come from?
Cherokee was a nickname. That I was
It's not
called,
because your family
that,
descends
that
from the
well,
tribe?
I was called Cherokee because I like dressing native, kind of bohemian, and my friends called me Cherokee. So when I went into show business, I added a last name, Black.
When you went into show business, you added
so
Cherokee, Black being black person.
My actual government name is Dutch.
I haven't heard that expression in a long time.
Dutch.
Government name.
Yeah, my government name.
Yeah, I know.
Is
Used
Dutch.
to hear that. Yeah.
It's Dutch.
Yeah.
But my father was Portuguese and Creole, and my mother was two tribes, native Dutch and African.
What is the Dutch name? Tell me that.
Pembroke.
Pembroke, yeah. These wonderful Dutch names. Harlem is another one.
Yeah, well,
Two
Harlem,
A's.
Amsterdam, York, all of that
Brooklyn.
is Dutch. Yeah, all of that is Dutch.
Yeah, before
Yeah, Harlem was spelled with two A's.
Yeah. There's another spelling too. So you talked about the derivation of the name and the spirituality, and I know that's been a real anchor for you. So that's why I just asked you.
Oh, the spirituality. Oh, well, if I didn't believe, I would have broken my sister.
Just say it a little louder.
I was going to say if I didn't have faith in a higher power, my sister would have been dead in 1987 because I would have believed the doctors in perfect health. People follow medicine and doctors, and they don't listen to them. They don't listen to their inner voices. Medicine has side effects. Every time you go to the doctor, they give you a medication. I was speaking to a lady the other day. I go to a chiropractor. She says, "You think it works?" Yes, it works. I don't have to take medicine, and my back feels much better. I mean, they don't. They're so. This country is so pharmaceutical driven.
Yeah.
Because it's big money. I mean,
Big pharma. Big pharma rules. And even with the vaccines, I have to say they rule like just reading some stories about
Well,
it.
Moderna is Fauci's company.
Well, you said that. We'll
It
talk about that
should.
off camera.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that off camera.
Okay.
But we really appreciate you taking the time out
Thank you.
and spending the time with us and sharing a lot of the knowledge and experiences that you've had. And I'm sure it's going to be really beneficial to a lot of people who will learn. I mean, that's what we do these oral histories, so people can sort of know what came before and the path that people's lives took. So for this edition of New Millennium Wars, the archives in the world, we thank you.